Where is the Harada interview? Do we know? Found it. Found it.
So I guess to start this off, why did you lie to us? Why? How is Heihachi coming back from the dead? And you know what made you want to bring Heihachi back as the third DLC character for Tekken 8?
Yeah, tell me.
He didn't mean to lie or anything about that. It was, you know, Tekken 7 really focused on the story arc between Heihachi and his son Kazuya, and so we really wanted to show that kind of final conclusion. And he seemed to die at that point, right? But then after that happened, Tekken 8 was released. And we put a lot of effort into the story, and the fans really seemed to be engaged with that. And as that was happening, we were kind of feeling that the players kind of missed him as well. Obviously, we did too. So it was kind of decided later on that we would do that. So it wasn't a lie. And then also, the timing is right since it's the 30th anniversary of the franchise. And so we need all three of the machines.
They have several excuses
in the series, right? So, you know, after the fact, we did kind of make the preparations, you know, Reina, kind of that link that she has to Heihachi, and then also the logo, the 30th anniversary. If you look closely at it, you can see that it's comprised of devil wings, two different styles.
and also Heihachi's hair.
But if you take a step back and look at it, it actually looks like the silhouette of Heihachi's face, right?
Totally.
So we were doing some of the preparations in the background.
I know it's early, but can you tell us a little bit about how this Tekken 8 version of Heihachi will be different from previous iterations, and maybe like how he will use heat to his advantage?
Like you imagine, it is a bit too early to be talking many details about this character, but to give some hints, he's a very powerful playstyle throughout the series, so we tried to recreate that in Tekken 8. So the focus is on that, but also if you saw little story hints about the monks in the footage and what he has to do with them, and that maybe will dictate some of his moveset as well. So there's some hints there. We hope that you look forward to hearing more about it.
This is just giving me a reason to play Soul Calibur 2, Heihachi.
So another thing that you've announced is this partnership with Chipotle and Nike. Can you talk a little bit about how
Let's
both
go.
those deals came about?
Hell yeah.
It
Let's talk
really
about this.
is, several different cases. Sometimes they approach us.
Fuck
Other
yeah,
times it's
Nike
something that we
Chipotle.
ask of them. But there needs to be, you know, the right
Tekken X
conditions, such
Safeway.
as, it's a win for us. It's a win for them.
Albertsons
but more
Cross Street
importantly, a
Fighter.
win also for the fans.
I've been
So,
waiting.
for example,
Finally.
with the Nike thing, you know, Nakatsu and I are both big sneaker, myself and him, are fans, but there's a lot of people on the team as well that love Nike. And so it just happened that that's something that there's a lot of sneakerheads in the fighting
Damn,
game
all the
community
characters get
as a
Nike
whole.
kicks now. That's
And then
funny.
also on the Nike side, we found out they really knew about Kazuya's being a sneakerhead, and we had a lot of fighting game fans on the Nike side. So it was a win-win for everyone. And
You get to
then
watch
also,
this
you know,
this thing
Chipotle
kick
as
you in the
well.
face.
They've been supporting the fighting game community. It's a good match with gamers and their franchises, and then also if it's something the fans are enjoying, obviously that's good for us from our side as well. So it came about that, hey, that's a win for everyone. Let's do it. So although the starting
Bro, these are some low effort crossovers, right? I need a little mound of guacamole on top of their head. Like, this is some low effort shit. Can we get like sour cream drizzled on their faces and stuff? Can we get kind of imaginary? Can we get some imagination in here? Right? Please? Can we get the drip of sour cream on the characters? Can we sprinkle some cheese on top of any character? Come on, dude.
you know,
Use your
the
imagination.
conditions are pretty similar.
So we're half a year into Tekken 8's life cycle. How happy are you with how the game has been received by fans? And then separately, how have the sales so far met with your own expectations?
まず売上規模から言う。
After the game release, it's been 6 months, like you said. We're happy with how the title's performing. It's continued at a faster pace than the Tekken 7. Also considering that compared to the other fighting game titles, we haven't done the previous generation of hardware. It's only on the current generation. So that considered as well, I think it's doing well. And then also from the community's perspective, the game's been released and it was supported a lot by new players. Some of the people who've been with the series for a long time, they voiced some concerns, etc. at the beginning, but those opinions change over the time. We've noticed during tournaments progressing, etc. People have more time with the game, even the more advanced players.
Yeah, the good news is that the game is different, right? Like that's the cool part about Tekken 8 is that it is one of the most different Tekken games. I don't think Tekken 7 fans, people that were hardcore into Tekken 7, wanted to play 7 or 8 more years of Tekken 7. In fact, I get it, like rose-tinted glasses and shit, but at the end of Tekken 7, most of those players were fucking done with that game. People were done with Tekken 7, dude.
Kind of got a handle on it, and so their opinion has seemed to change in the past 3 months. And I would add the same, we had to make a brand new game. It had to feel like a proper installment. So
Good.
Nakatsu and his team really changed the game system a lot and really clarified the key concepts of the characters and their strengths and weaknesses. And also we did an update recently that addressed some of the things that the older players didn't like, maybe enhancing some of the defensive options, etc. So I think the game's really in a good place currently.
Many of the core mechanics
Yeah, the last patch was
Tekken
great.
8 have changed since the game was first revealed. Like specifically, I remember how the heat mechanics worked a little bit differently when I first saw it. Now that you've had 6 months since release and have heard feedback from both casual players and top-level pros, do you envision any more sweeping changes to the core systems in Tekken 8, or even some new additions?
そうですね。まあ最初にやっぱりヒート。
Like you said, we've made some changes to the heat system after release. The reasoning being that although the concept was clear and we felt we achieved it, that it was very fun to be on the offense and to open up your opponent and to be able to do damage, etc. Was quite exhilarating, but we realized that some of the elements that people liked about a 3D fighting game, being able to have the defensive options of sidestepping or using that 3D environment to your advantage strategically, was a little bit weaker perhaps than in past installments. So with the update, like we were mentioning,
It's version 1,
we
shit's
enhanced
gonna
these features
change.
a little bit more. So we currently think that the game is in a good place, and there are no further. We've already announced this to the player base as a whole, but we don't plan on making any sweeping changes to the game system itself. We plan on proceeding with this, although we'll continue to be fixing bugs.
Yeah,
and-
they'll effectively not make any sweeping systemic changes to core game mechanics until some new busted thing is found and they have to fix it. That's just the nature of it, right?
and things like that. And also, like we talked about today, more about the product as a whole, adding new features or making quality of life improvements, trying to make it the best Tekken we can, since it is, after all, the 30th anniversary of the series.
So Tekken has historically been a series that has included some kind of off-the-wall characters like Gon, Mokujin, Roger, Alex, Kuma, and Panda. Since Tekken 6, though, it's only really been Kuma and Panda representing that kind of character archetype. Do you think Tekken as a series has largely outgrown those types of characters, or is there a chance that we could see those characters come back?
いや、
Tag 2 had it all.
元々のテク
So the strategy, the thinking behind the franchise hasn't changed. It's not like we're intentionally removing those characters per se. But if you really take a close look at how they were back in those iterations, it was more of like they were, we call them compatible characters in Japanese, which means like
Jokes.
The moveset is another character, and it's just the skin is different, right? So there are many of those characters.
I mean,
in the
clones.
past, not just the animals that you mentioned. And over the series, we've tried to flesh them out and to do away with that portion. So making sure that each of the characters are unique. So even if you have Kuma and Panda, their moves might be slightly different, or the rage arts or whatever. They're their own unique character. So that was the main thinking behind that, and it wasn't intentional that the other characters are not making an appearance. That said, in order to get everyone's favorites and then also include characters like that, we'd have to have a roster of like 60-some characters, which just isn't viable from a launch, and then also for the player base to learn how to play against that number of characters is a lot. So we wouldn't say they're not going to make an appearance ever again. That's just the current state.
So guest characters have been an important trend in fighting games, and Tekken obviously no stranger
Oh,
to
here we
them.
go.
What are your thoughts in general of having guest characters in your games, and do they come with any sort of unique challenges that maybe the average Tekken fan might not think about, as just from the perspective of a fan?
ありますね。
There is some things that maybe are behind the scenes that most people won't notice, that there's got to be a variety of conditions that align. We want that particular character in our game is the start. Does that IP owner want their property in our game? And then maybe both say, yeah, that's awesome, but there's in timing. Like for our franchise, when do we want that character to appear? And for them, maybe they're like, no, we have plans, we can't have it until later, or we have plans that are coming later, so it has to.
Everything's got to line up.
And then the fans want to see that in the game. So there's a variety of conditions that have to occur before all this can work out to be in the game. And then I was just mentioning that even if that happens, which is the hard part, right? And then if you're using like a famous character that has a well-known actor attached to it, and their schedule is insane, and you have to be able to find time to get them into the studio to record voice lines and things like that. So there's so many obstacles that have to be overcome for that to happen. So it is quite a challenge.
I wanted to ask you if you were familiar with the recent rise of creator-led team tournaments like the Sage Jam Slam, which I know you had a thing with yesterday.
Again! Oh, the rainbow! Oh my god!
Oh my god! And the CR Cup. Have you checked any of these out? And what do you think of the team format of having teams that are led by professional players, but then the teams themselves are mostly made up of non-FGC streamers, YouTubers, and other content creators?
いろいろ
He actually does watch those events, and he's a fan of some of the VTubers or streamers as well that maybe might not be a FGC person. So
Harada's retweeted the heck out of
I think
VTubers
this is
playing
really
Tekken 8.
a great thing that's happening, because you have these pros who know their games quite well, but you have the streamers who haven't perhaps played some of these games, and they all have their own communities who maybe don't play fighting games that are then become interested because of their favorite streamer. Another thing that's quite interesting that happens is that even if some of these people watch that stream and they find it interesting, maybe they're not even motivated to play the game themselves, but they still enjoy watching it and being a part of the audience and enjoying that experience. So
A thing that I got to remind people of, in what he's saying is 100% right. One thing that I have to highlight in there, and it's something else that's a priority of mine, right? Developers will hyperfixate and focus on, for their titles, new audience. Like, they know that they have to get new audience members to replace the existing ones, because people will just lose interest in fighting games. I saw the exact same thing at EVO this year. The majority of people that were in the audience that were watching Top 8 with us, I asked everybody how many was their first EVO. The resounding audience, the most people said this was their first EVO. So again, it's insanely important from a game design, game development perspective that you get new players. In what ways do we get new players? Because we have to replace the people that effectively lost interest from the previous games, or try to get them back in some way. So again, it's big, man. Like this is why I think I have an ear with a lot of devs just in general, because a lot of my content is around the same focus that is of their efforts. Our goals are the same, is to get people into and appreciate fighting games and get to try this stuff out for either the first time or discover something that they've never discovered before. We have like the same goals.
Thing to see fighting games reaching a new audience, but maybe they're not playing it. That's still cool though. I would say the same thing. You know, I mean, I'm a close friend of Sejam and some of these people, and you know, we're not directly involved that often, although we did make an appearance. It's great to see what they're doing with the game, and to see the journey for me especially. I was watching Lily Pichu, and to see her start off with no knowledge of Tekken, and then she just becomes so engrossed, and I see her face the hurdles that beginner players face, and then she overcomes them as she's playing people online, and then to see her face new problems as an intermediate player, and to see that journey is really cool, and to see her community experience that and grow with her is just totally awesome.
Yeah, and just like, you know, I love seeing it from this perspective of seeing the love of fighting games in real time blossom in someone, right?
Right.
How was it launching on console and PC without an initial arcade release, and how has that, you know, changed the way you develop? And
Bro, we played a hella early version of Tekken 8 back in like summer of like 23 or some shit. Remember that first beta for Tekken 8? Holy crap, man. This shit came so far. Just for some perspective in comparison to where Tekken 8 is at right now. That first version was degenerate as fuck, dude. Like, with the double heat dash, with like both characters heat activating on frame 1 round start. Like, shit was, combos were like twice as long as they are now. It's crazy to see like how far they came and how many effectively very good decisions they made in a short period of time.
you know, now how has it changed, like post-launch updating of it?
単純にファンから見れば
You know, back in the day, it was, I guess you could say, a bit easier because we start off with arcade iteration, which just includes the battle portion of the game. So that allowed us to put some time into polishing that portion before moving on to the console, in which you start adding the various modes and other features that the console version received. But since we don't have that, now it's like you have to provide everything from the start. You have to do the brand new game systems, all the stuff that goes into the console version. You have to polish them at the same time as well as create it. And it's just, it's really intense. That said, back in the day with the arcades, you know, there wasn't a worldwide connected internet and the fan base and all that. So the communities were really localized, and to get feedback, it was very hard. You'd have to pretty much go to that location. Where now, although we have to create everything at the start, and it's quite intense, we're more easily able to get feedback from the community because they're connected to each other across the world. And it's easier to access some of the more advanced players as well to get their feedback with the game. So that does help. You know, so there are the challenges and drawbacks, and then also the feedback. It's easier to get, but you're kind of like overwhelmed by it, because before you're looking at just the battle portion for the
Too much
arcade, but
feedback.
when we released Tekken 8 without an arcade version, you're getting feedback about the balance of the game, the brand new system, some kind of characters, maybe one of the features of the game that people. There's so much that encompasses that it's quite difficult to sift through it and then decide what do you prioritize, because we can't do all of it at once, right?
And then final question, I'm asking this to all the fighting game developers and producers that I'm talking to, but what do you believe is like the next step forward for the fighting game genre? We just kind of overcame netcode with most games coming out now having rollback netcode. What do you envision as like any sort of new innovation or technology that you think could improve the genre and bring it into a new era of fighting games?
そうですねまあテクノロジー
Like you said, there's been various changes like rollback, etc., that have changed. But what he's looking for in particularly is maybe more of the community aspect and how that changes, because we've seen a change outside of games.
Bro, I still reflect on the fact that when I play Tekken online now, that outside of the behavior of people, which cannot be controlled, not entirely, the experience is generally pretty positive. Like, the connection quality isn't something that is constantly a hindrance to my experience of enjoying the game. That is something that Tekken 8 has solved. Rollback netcode in the game does work. It functions. It's great. Is it the best it possibly can be? No. And does people behavior also sucks? Yeah, those things are frustrating, but goddamn, dude. Like, it's wild to me that I'm enjoying Tekken now more than I have since arguably Tekken 3 and Tekken 5, because I can actually fight people, and most of the time not be angry at some egregious element instead of myself. If I'm just mad at myself, then it's okay. There's obviously a path to improve there, but when there's some bullshit netcode stuff in the way and it's a huge pain in the ass, then it is too frustrating for me, you know? That's one of the main reasons I'll just stop playing a fighting game completely.
The internet as a whole and how people interact with each other and make friends, etc. Perhaps that will somehow make its way into fighting games. And there's kind of an earlier iteration, you know, our Fight Lounge in Tekken 8 that you can experience that to some degree. But then also just the way that you play the game. For example, currently it's normally a one-on-one matches, maybe ranked or something like that, where maybe we start to see more of a team-based battles, which are quite popular in areas like Japan. Just seeing the way that people interact with each other in a fighting game, not just directly in the battle, is something that will probably evolve. Maybe perhaps the way that you cheer on someone in a fighting game, you're not playing directly, but you're still enjoying it as you watch them. Or maybe the way that you interact with that certain group who are playing the games online in some kind of a lobby, etc. These are the areas he thinks will maybe see changes.
Betting.
There's a lot of possibility in the AI features that we included, for example, in Tekken 8. We can play against more refined CPU character because they mimic tendencies, etc. But the AI characters, the ghost example that we have, their various uses. It's not just to battle against them. It helps point out your flaws and to help you practice and enhance your weak areas. Or maybe it's an AI version of yourself and allows you to more take a step back and see your own weaknesses more effectively. And so it kind of complements that what Harada was talking about, that online community and how you interact with them. But then you also have this kind of AI companion to help you in your journey as a player. And they're kind of interwoven as he sees it. He's joking that maybe from the AI players, when you beat them, they're going to start sending you salty messages like real players. I agree with Nakatsu too, myself, that I think the fun part of fighting games, and Harada mentioned this, is not going to change. It's that chess between you and your opponent. But we see that it's often hard to get people who have no knowledge of fighting games to get to that step where they find out why fighting games are so amazing. So I think like Nakatsu and his team, some of the things that they've done with the AI characters, or I don't think he talked about it today, but the replay against you and an opponent where you can see that, but then you can practice a certain iteration. I think those kind of things where it helps people get to that point where they can enjoy the chess is some of the evolution we're going to be seeing as well.
Good interview. IGN with the good interviews from Evo, right? Got both good interviews from Evo. Why are we going down the throat of something in this Tekken trailer? What the hell am I looking at? Huh? Wait a minute. Oh, we are. Oh, there we are. Okay, we're back. Holy shit. Going down the throat of some character over here. Yeah, and what they explained about the yes characters also kind of lines up. It's sort of a reconfirmation of just how shit works and how we know stuff operates in that space. So nothing too crazy on that front, but you know, it's good to hear that Tekken 8's doing good because it deserves it.